Crack open a cold one. I'm about to hit you with a salty short. What's up, guys? Today we're talking Oktoberfest. Every month needs an excuse to drink. Looking at you, St. Patty's Day. So this is the one for October. Quick backstory on the actual Oktoberfest. It was originally a massive event in Munich, where King Ludwig I married Teresa of Saxe-Hildburghausen in October of 1810. Old King Ludwig, being the swell guy that he was, decided to invite the entire town, and boom, Oktoberfest. Now, over the years, it has gone through many transformations. Horse shows have been added, marches through town, etc., into what it is today. But it started with a wedding, which is pretty badass. Of course, if your wedding has a party that is town-sized, you really must love each other, right? I mean, you don't just throw a freaking party and invite the whole city to kick off your marriage if you don't love your spouse. King Ludwig I had fun. A lot of fun outside of his marital bed, if you catch my drift, a wink a wink. The woman he is most associated with is Lola Montez, an Irish dancer and actress, who was 35 years younger than Ludwig. Go get him, King. Lola is who we're concentrating on in this short. Lola bounced around quite a bit in her youth. She was born in Ireland, and she moved to England, and then finally India, where her father died suddenly. Her mother remarried quickly, and Lola was not a fan of the guy. Lola was wild. Lola was a free spirit. Lola ran naked through the streets. You know, a normal upbringing. She was sent back to England for school, or because her stepfather had had enough, same thing. And in a few years, at the ripe old age of 16, she eloped with a Lieutenant James, moved to India, and separated 5 years later. She began her dancing career shortly thereafter, but her reputation in England wasn't exactly stellar due to her wild ways and recent divorce. She was still known as Mrs. James. She went to Paris and Warsaw instead, and saw her fame begin to rise. She began to meet famous men, and, well, had fun. She had an affair with Franz Liszt, a Hungarian composer, and Alexander Dumas, of Three Musketeers fame. The first affair that really grabbed headlines, though, was her relationship with Alexander, who has a last name that I cannot pronounce. It's up there on the screen. Have at it. He was owner of a major newspaper in France. After fighting one night about Lola attending a party, old Alex decided to crash that party, drunk. He pissed off a guy with a name that is exceedingly difficult to pronounce, so again, that's on the screen. And that guy challenged Alex to a duel. Because that was back in the day where you could, do that kind of stuff. Alex, drunk and salty, became drunk, salty, and dead. Lola, not letting something like the death of her lover stop her, found her way to Munich in 1846, where she began shacking up with a new guy. And what new guy? No one famous. Just good old King Ludwig I, the guy that kicked off Oktoberfest at his wedding. The affair was increasingly public, and locals were not the biggest fan of her. She was kind of a bitch, honestly. Despite that, old Luddy decided to make her a countess. From running naked in the streets of India to a countess. That's a freaking American dream right there. She gained a massive amount of political influence and used it to dismiss people who made her salty, which made the citizens pissed. Pissed enough to exile her from the city of Munich. And in the 17 and 1800s, you really don't want to get citizens pissed. I mean, as all of this was going on, Ludwig was dealing with some issues himself. Mainly the beer riots of 1844. Why tax beer in Germany, of all places? He was able to calm some of the unrest leading up to 1848, until Lola decided to return to Munich, which sparked unrest and forced him off the throne. Yeah, his side piece, who had one job, got him kicked off the throne. Lola, for her part, didn't stay in one place for long. Because why? She picked herself right up and went to Switzerland to wait for Ludwig. then to France, where she married a military officer. But because of her divorce from her first husband, she couldn't remarry, so she fled to America and remarried. I stopped counting, just so you know. And then divorced. All this while reviving and subsequently destroying her acting and dancing career. She eventually turned a corner and spent her last years touring the U.S., giving moral lectures and wasting away from syphilis, which she died from in 1861 at 39 years old. If you guys skip to the end, we're doing a too long didn't listen. Here's a summary. Lola was a woman who helped take down King Ludwig, who invented Oktoberfest at his wedding. Big shout out to Decipher Brewing, where this footage was shot. If you're ever in Charlottesville, Virginia, look them up for some great beer and a good time. Happy Oktoberfest, be safe, stay feisty, keep cooking.